Hey everyone, welcome back to the place where real-life stories unfold in ways you never expect. If you're new here, make sure you stick around. Because today's story is one that will leave you shocked, emotionally, and maybe even questioning what you'd do in the same situation. This story is about a father, a house, and a son who thought he had all the power until he realized one crucial detail that changed everything. Let's begin. I never imagined I'd be standing outside my own house, locked out, with nowhere to go. That house wasn't just bricks and walls. It was the place where my son took his first steps, where birthdays were celebrated, where laughter once filled every corner. I worked decades for it, paid every mortgage installment, fixed every leak, every broken tile, every creaking door, and yet, one evening, I found myself staring at a locked door. My own son on the other side, refusing to let me in. It didn't happen overnight. Things between us had been changing slowly, like a crack forming in a wall. You don't notice it at first, but over time, it spreads. Gets deeper. Harder to ignore. My son, Daniel, used to be close to me. After his mother passed away, it was just the two of us. I did everything I could to raise him right. I worked long hours, came home exhausted, but still made time for him. Helped him with homework, cooked dinner, sat through his teenage mood swings. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. When he got older, he started acting differently. Distant, cold. Conversations turned into arguments. Arguments turned into silence. Then came the day he suggested moving in with me again. He said rent was too high. Said he needed to save money. Said it would be temporary. I agreed. He was my son. Of course I agreed. At first it seemed fine. He helped with groceries, occasionally paid a bill. But gradually, his behavior started changing again, this time worse than before. He became controlling. It started small. Complaints about how I kept the house. Criticism about things that never bothered him before. Then he began making decisions without asking me. He rearranged furniture. Changed the locks for safety, he said. Took over rooms like they were his. I tried to ignore it. I told myself he was just going through something. Until the day everything exploded. We had an argument, one of many, but this one was different. He told me I was outdated, that I didn't understand how things worked anymore, that the house needed new energy. I laughed it off at first, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. He looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Maybe it's time you moved out." I thought I misheard him. Moved out of my own house. I reminded him calmly that I owned the house, that I had built this life for both of us. But he didn't back down. Instead, he doubled down. Said he had been paying bills. Said he had rights. Said things had changed. That was the first moment I felt something break inside me. Not anger, not even disbelief, just sadness. How did we get here? Still, I didn't think he'd go that far, until the next evening. I had gone out to run a few errands. Nothing unusual. Just groceries and a short walk to clear my head. When I came back, my key didn't work. At first, I thought I was using the wrong key. I tried again, nothing. Then again. Still nothing. That's when I noticed it. The lock had been changed. My heart dropped. I knocked on the door, no answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Finally, I heard footsteps. The door opened slightly. The chain still on. It was him, my son. He didn't look angry. He looked firm, like he had already made up his mind. "You can't come in," he said. Just like that, no hesitation, no emotion. I stood there, frozen. "What do you mean I can't come in?" I asked. "You need to leave," he replied. "This isn't working anymore." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I reminded him, again it was my house. My name was on everything. But he just shook his head. "It doesn't matter," he said. "I live here now." Those words hit harder than anything else. I live here now, as if I didn, single quotes, tidn, single quotes, tidn. outsider. I tried reasoning with him, tried reminding him of everything we'd been through, but he wouldn't budge. Eventually, he closed the door. And just like that, I was locked out. I spent that night sitting in my car, not because I had nowhere else to go, but because I couldn't bring myself to leave. That house was my life. Every memory, every sacrifice was tied to it, and now I was being treated like a stranger. But as painful as that night was, it was also the moment something inside me shifted. I realized something important. I had been trying to fix things emotionally. When the situation had become legal. The next morning, I made a decision. I gathered every document I had, the property deed, mortgage records, bills, everything. And there it was, clear as day. The house was in my name. Only mine. Always had been. No co-ownership, no transfers, nothing. My son had been acting like he owned the place. But legally, he didn't, not even close. That realization didn't make me feel victorious. It made me feel conflicted. Because the person I had to take action against was my own son. But I knew I couldn't let things continue this way, so I contacted a lawyer, explained everything, and the response was simple. What he did is illegal. Hearing that was both reassuring and heartbreaking. Because it meant I had to make a choice. Let it go and lose everything I built. Or stand my ground and potentially lose my relationship with my son. I chose to stand my ground, not out of anger, but out of necessity. Legal steps were taken, notice was served, and suddenly, the situation changed. The confidence my son had started to fade. Because now, reality was catching up with him. He hadn't realized something so simple, something so critical. The house was never his. When he finally understood that, everything shifted. He tried to talk, tried to explain, said he didn't think it would go this far, but it already had. The damage was done. Trust had been broken, not just by locking me out, but by what it represented. Disrespect, entitlement, and a complete disregard for everything I had done. Eventually, I got back into my house. Legally, properly, no force, no drama, just the law doing what it does. But the house felt different, empty, quiet, not because things were missing, but because something deeper was gone. The relationship I thought we had wasn't the same anymore. To this day, I still think about that moment, standing outside my own door, hearing my son tell me I didn't belong, and I ask myself, where did I go wrong? Was it something I did? Something I didn't do? Or was it just life? But if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's this: never assume things will stay the same, just because they always have. People change, situations change, and sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones who surprise you the most. If you take anything from this story, let it be this: know your rights, protect what you've built, and never let anyone, no matter who they are, take away what's yours. Because at the end of the day, respect isn't automatic, it's earned, and sometimes it has to be enforced. Thank you for listening to this story on Storyova. If this story made you feel something, if it made you think, or if you've ever experienced something similar, don't forget to share your thoughts. And remember, every story has two sides, but not every story has a happy ending. But that wasn't the end of the story. In fact, that was only the beginning of what came after, because getting the house back didn't mean getting my life back. The silence inside those walls felt heavier than any argument we had ever had. Every room reminded me of something: his childhood, his laughter, the way he used to run down the hallway when he was late for school. Now, it was just quiet. Too quiet. For the first few days after everything was resolved, I moved through the house like a guest. Not because I didn't belong, but because it no longer felt the same. It's strange how a place can remain exactly as it is, yet feel completely different. I kept expecting to hear his voice, a door closing, music playing from his room. Anything, but there was nothing. And then came the doubt. Not about the house, not about the decision, but about him. Had I pushed too far? Should I have handled things differently? Those questions kept circling in my mind, over and over again. And no matter how many times I tried to justify what I did, a part of me still felt uneasy. Because at the end of the day, he was still my son. Weeks passed. We didn't speak. No calls, no messages, nothing. I told myself he needed time. That maybe he was embarrassed. Maybe he was processing everything in his own way. But the longer the silence stretched, the more it started to feel permanent. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. There was a knock on the door. For a moment, I just stood there. I wasn't expecting anyone. Slowly, I walked over and opened it, and there he was. Daniel, standing on the other side. He looked different. Not physically, but something in his expression had changed. The confidence he once carried was gone, replaced by something else, something quieter, something heavier. Neither of us spoke at first. We just stood there, looking at each other. It felt like years had passed, even though it had only been weeks. Finally, he broke the silence. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it," he said. His voice wasn't defensive. It wasn't angry. It was honest. I took a deep breath. "I didn't think you'd lock me out," I replied. That seemed to hit him. He looked down for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. I guess we both underestimated each other. There was an awkward pause, the kind that feels like it could either end everything or begin something new. "I'm not here to argue," he continued. "I just wanted to talk." I stepped aside. "Come in." He hesitated for a second, then walked inside. It was the first time he had been back since everything happened, and you could feel it. The tension, the memories, the weight of everything that had gone unsaid. We sat down in the living room, the same room where we had spent countless evenings together. But this time, it felt different, more serious, not more real. "I messed up," he said. Finally, just like that, no excuses, no justifications, just those 3 words. And for a moment, I didn't know what to say, because part of me had been waiting to hear that. But another part of me wasn't sure it was enough. "You think?" I replied quietly. He nodded again. "I don't know what I was thinking," he admitted. "I guess I got comfortable. Too comfortable. And then I started feeling like everything here was mine too." I listened, didn't interrupt, didn't argue, just listened. "And when we started fighting," he continued, "I felt like you didn't respect me. Like you didn't see me as an adult. So I pushed back. Harder than I should have." I leaned back in my chair. "And locking me out?" I asked. "That was pushing back." He winced slightly. "No," he said. "That was me crossing a line." There it was again. That honesty. And this time, it felt real. "I didn't think about what it would actually mean," he added. "I just wanted control." For once, that word stuck with me. Control. Because maybe that's what this had all been about. Not the house, not the bills, not even the arguments. Just control. "I gave you a lot of freedom," I said slowly. "But that doesn't mean you get to take everything." "I know," he replied. Silence settled between us again, but this time, it wasn't as heavy. It felt different, like something was shifting. "I'm not asking to move back in," he said suddenly. "If that's what you're thinking." I raised an eyebrow. "Then why are you here?" He hesitated, then looked me straight in the eyes. "Because I don't want this to be how things end between us." That hit deeper than anything else he had said, because for the first time, he wasn't talking about the house. He was talking about us. "I don't either," I admitted. And that was the truth. No matter what had happened, no matter how far things had gone, I didn't want to lose my son. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore what had happened. "Things can't go back to how they were," I said firmly. "I know," he replied. "And trust isn't something that just comes back overnight. I know that too. He didn't argue, didn't try to rush anything, and that mattered because for once, he was actually listening. I just want a chance to fix things, he said. Not the house. Not the situation, just us. I looked at him for a long moment, trying to decide what I believed, what I felt, what I was willing to risk. Because rebuilding something like that takes time, takes effort, and most importantly, takes willingness from both sides. Then we start slow, I said finally. No expectations. No pressure. Just conversations. He nodded. I can do that. And just like that, something small, but important, began. Over the next few weeks, we started talking again. Not about the past at first. Just simple things. Work. Life. Random conversations that didn't carry the weight of everything that had happened. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, moments where old habits tried to creep back in. But this time, we were both more aware, more careful, more willing to listen, and slowly, very slowly, things started to feel a little more normal, not the same as before, but not broken either. Somewhere in between. One evening, as we sat in the kitchen, he looked around and said something that caught me off guard. This place feels different now. I nodded. It does. Do you ever wish things had gone differently? He asked. I thought about it. About everything. The arguments, the night he locked me out, the silence that followed. Sometimes, I admitted. But then I think, maybe this needed to happen. He looked at me, surprised. Why? Because we were heading in the wrong direction, I said. And neither of us was willing to admit it. He didn't respond right away, but I could tell he was thinking about it. Yeah, he said eventually. I think you're right. And in that moment, I realized something important. What happened wasn't just a conflict. It was a turning point, a harsh one, a painful one. But sometimes, that's what it takes. To wake people up. To force change. To make them see things they were ignoring. Our relationship wasn't perfect. It still isn't, but it's real. And it's built on something stronger now. Not assumptions. Not expectations, but understanding. And boundaries. Because if there's one thing this whole experience taught me, it's that love doesn't mean letting people walk over you. Even if they're family, even if they're your own child. Respect goes both ways, and without it, nothing else lasts. So if you're watching this right now, and you're dealing with something similar, whether it's family, friends, or anyone close to you, remember this. Standing your ground doesn't mean you don't care. Sometimes, it means you care enough to protect what matters. And sometimes, it's the only way things can truly change. Thank you for being here with Storyova. And remember, some of the hardest moments in life end up teaching the most important lessons.